On the air. You're
All
in the
right,
broadcast.
destination could not. I don't even know where we left. Oh, look, here we are. Air starting. Right, that one won't go. Those three streaming. I don't know. I think we did it. I don't know what's going on.
I think we're live. I'm checking Twitter right now. Let's see.
Feel like
Yeah, we're live on Twitter.
I feel like I got a big melon. Big melon.
We like big melons. I mean, what?
On. We're gonna fix that.
We're not live on YouTube.
No.
No.
It says we are.
I'm gonna pull it up one more. Oh, there it is. Okay, weird. I literally within 3 seconds it changed.
This is going to be the most dangerous thing I could possibly do.
What are we doing here?
I'm gonna switch my lens. Let's see.
Do it live for the people.
If I do this,
hey Richard,
and then I do this, and then I do this.
Yeah, Richard, we are trying some new software because why not, as Clark says. And I agree.
Come on back, baby.
Hey, check that out.
Look at that.
Man, it's a nice office.
That shit fixed a whole bunch of stuff. Look at that. Juicy.
God, I cannot.
Holy cow.
Hello.
Look at that.
Dude, I love that new sweatshirt.
I don't think people switch lenses in the middle of a production.
Well, we just started. Unless our production's like 3 minutes long, I think we're okay.
I mean,
we'll see.
Now I've got this little lens on. It's so cute. All right. What else can we do?
We're doing it.
We are doing it.
Love the lenses. Yeah, dude. Welcome back from that.
Yeah. How you doing?
Dude, I'm all right. You know, just my day jobs is driving me nuts. That's all right though.
I have not seen the plane that I put the order in for. So
yeah, there's lots of delays. Unfortunately, you know, there's components that have like a year-long lead time, so I can't do much for you there.
I can change the color. Does that help?
You know, I'll try to have it for that Wisconsin 2025.
Well, that's a quick turnaround time.
Well, it's a year, you know.
Here, if you can do that. That did nothing. I thought I was going to play an applause sound. That's so close. Anyways.
All right. I'm glad to see all right, so I want to talk about that. And I know this is your I was going to say podcast, your stream, but
come on. Whatever.
It's ours. Insert Bugs Bunny meme. So last year at that, you know, first of all, I love your every time you talk. I could listen to you talk forever, and you're probably like, why?
I mean, that's very kind to hear.
I think everyone can, honestly. Everyone always comments how real you are, which is part of what we love about you and that conference and everything. How are you actually after everything?
Well, I mean, it's not, you know, that's about how I am. I mean,
that checks out.
It's you know, there's a lot of things going on. There's bills that's got to get paid. There's client work that's been waiting for me. There's what are we doing in the future? How are we doing it? You know, all the stuff. So, and meanwhile, pay the bills. So, you know, we had a fantastic event. Financially, it's a fucking disaster. If I'm being honest. But you know, the events, I don't want this to sound boisterous, but I'm pretty good at them. Like I've been doing them for, I don't know, 16 years now. and I we're pretty good. Like I think I know where my place is in this kind of industry of events, and we're gonna kind of lean into that a little bit more. And, you know, it's a weird time in tech. It's a weird time for jobs. It's a weird time for events. It's a weird time for sponsors. It's a weird time. It's just a freaking weird time. And
I'm kind of tired of unprecedented times, and I feel like that's pretty spot on.
I mean, I think I would say it's a correction that probably needed to happen. I don't. Complacency is one of those things where things are going a certain way, and you feel like it should, and you maybe feel like it should be, kind of continuing like that. But I think the reality is you kind of have to step back and go, are we doing the right thing given where things are at today? And I think you have to do that in your business. You have to do that kind of in all kind of fashions, right? Like if you're working out every couple weeks or every month and you're doing the same thing, well, then you're doing it wrong because you need to switch up what you're doing, right? New muscle groups need whatever. And I think it's the same type of thing. Like I can't run the same event today that I ran 14 years ago. We can't pretend like the tech industry is the same 5 years ago as it was 10 years ago. And I happen to have a couple decades under me. And I don't think that any of it's bad, but there's a lot of cruft in the system. Like we want to pretend like, oh, companies shouldn't fire people. But the same token, we all have worked for those companies where like too fucking many people, like shit's not getting done. So it's kind of like, are they all the right ways that things should happen and go down? No, like not everything is legitimate, but I had to let go of Brett because we don't have the money. Like, and that's an artifact of, sponsors and ticket sales and inflation. And, there's not one kind of thing. And I think that kind of across the board, you can go, okay, well, what are we doing the right things today that we should be, and knowing that, shit's different. Like it's not a bad thing. It's just okay. We can sit here and bitch about it, or we can be like, okay, well, let's adjust, right? Like we're not gonna change it by just complaining on Twitter and acting like somebody cares. Like you're just gonna have to adapt.
So, well, you got to do it, or you just fall behind, right? I mean, honestly, that's kind of similar just to being a developer, right, or being a teacher. Yeah. If you don't keep up on the latest things in your industry, you're going to fall behind.
Yeah, I mean, you just look at AI and development. We're from here on out, you're going to have a buddy that you can ask questions to, and over time, that buddy's going to get smarter and smarter. Does that buddy replace you? No. Like you're a human. Like we made the buddy. go do the next part thing, right? Like machines pick up automobile parts better because they're stronger. Use the big brain to design the new automobile. Like we should all end up leveling up in that regard. So
yeah. No, I agree. I think, talking of AI, I think you're right. Like it's going to be here. It's here to stay. It's not going to replace you. Every time I use some sort of code from whatever AI assistant, it's like I'm doing a mini code review.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know how to get rid of that now. For those that are new watching this stream, my audio is quiet. Yeah, thanks. Please tell us what's going on, because I just started using new software and we have no idea what we're doing.
No, we're just here along for the ride.
Let's see if I do this. So, Lydia, you can tell me if this is any better. You could tell me too. I don't know if you heard.
Oh, I mean, you were loud for me before, but your gain's just fine now. I could always just turn
Ah,
down my computer though,
juicy,
so it's
juicy.
really cool.
Um,
Mm.
I'm sorry. Say what you were saying again. I got so distracted by Ray just
Um,
taking over the entire screen with his comment.
no, all I was saying is AI is great and all. It's not replacing anyone, especially coming as a junior dev. I was a little worried in the beginning, and now every time I use a bit of AI generated code, it's like I'm doing a mini code review. I'm always checking it. You cannot trust it, and that goes for anything you use AI for.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's like anything on the internet. Like, don't trust what you see, right? Like, always confirm that it's true or
Right.
accurate.
Right. Right. So, how am I doing? We had a really great event, and there's work to be done. I'm gonna start. I mean, some of you have heard this already. I'm gonna start doing more coaching and speaking and trying to help communities build communities. And we have that conference stuff that needs to refactor and adapt. And I got client work to get out the door. So I wish it was a little less busy, but it feels a lot busy.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean I guess that's the tough part. You put together this conference and then, or I'm sorry, you put together that conference and then you jump right back into real
Using the
life.
trademarks that I spent tens of thousands of dollars on. Good job.
Hey, I try. Hey, it's very punnable trademark. So, um, yeah, I mean everyone had a blast. I know several people went for the first time and they absolutely loved it. And people that are part of Gridiron are saying, oh my god, I can't wait to go to the next one because this looked like a family. It looks like everyone cared about each other. And again, I mean, Shashi pointed out, he's like, let's be clear, that conference is the one that does this. That conference is the one that makes a difference. Not to say the other conferences don't, but and I said this before. Oh, go ahead.
I have a different goal, I think. I mean, it's reality.
I think so. I think I said it before about that conference, but it's just um what you put into it. Like you said, you have a different goal, and that comes out. But yeah, Richard is one of them that he's in the comments, and he was one that went for the first time. And I heard he had a blast from Shashi. I'm looking forward to catching up with him. Yeah, so I think you're doing the right thing, no matter what. I think everyone loves it, enjoys it, and has a great time. And I can't wait to go back. I'm upset that my job didn't let me go to this one.
Yeah, this one was a good one.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all good. It's I'm not, like you said, I appreciate the kind words. We have a different goal. I believe a community is an everyday thing, and because of that, you have to do things every day. And I very much think about, like, what can we do in person that we can't do online? That's the kind of thing that haunts me all night long. Of, okay, well, let's make sure we lean into that, because people have spent time and money to get there, and so let's do that correctly, and let's continue to put ourselves in check to see, are we doing the the right things that grow us. And look, there's a lot of shit online, right? Are we trying to teach skills that you can get cheaper online? That doesn't make any sense. Like, that's not a good use of, I mean, we could, but that's not really a good use of anybody's time. So, but 14 years ago, that was a different story. Nobody wanted to read the book. Yes, there were physical books. Actual books.
I'm a sucker for physical books. I have my Kindle, but certain books I will buy physical copies of still.
I have to have. I got books on books on books. In fact,
I have a small bookshelf.
My books have changed over the year. Mine are way more in the body. I'm trying to look at just one I just got the other day, but I can't seem to find it. Anyways, whatever. Nice sweater, Clark. You know it. Not the physical books, Dominic. Absolutely the physical books.
Yes, all right. So I can say partially maybe where Dom's coming from is I don't like having too many things. So I have a selection of physical books that I keep, and the rest of them I'll either rent from the library or just purchase digitally and have on my Kindle. But there's nothing like reading a physical book. That's for sure.
So Ryan Holiday, I'm not a good reader, so I'll just say that. It was Grant Cardone. No, not Grant Cardone. My God, what's his name? I'm looking at his book. Alex Hormezi, who was like, you should listen to it and read it at the same time. Like that's the actual like pro tip.
Yes.
Which does help. Like that is crazy. But it was Ryan Holiday who was like, listen, books are meant to be mendable, right? They're meant to be written in, they're meant to be marked up, they're meant to be reread, they're meant to be a working kind of copy of that entire thought process. And when he said that, I was like, I've been reading it wrong. Like, you know, you read the words, you could like do the mechanics because that's what you were taught through school. And I guess at times I've marked them up, but like you look at one of Ryan Holiday's books and that thing is destroyed. Like it's got tabs and, you know, stickies hanging out of it. And I'm like, yep. Okay. Yeah. I gotta start doing that. But
yeah, I think it's funny because growing up, and maybe it's because it was always school property, but you know, it was like keep the book pristine, don't write in it, don't do anything.
Yeah.
But you're right, you know, especially self-help books or anything that you're reading in an effort to better yourself or learn something new. Why not take notes? Mark up the margins, you know?
Yeah. So
I'm a sucker for Ryan Holiday.
Oh yeah, I just got his Right Thing Right Now. That came like a week before, 2 weeks before. I'm a sucker for having people sign them too. I don't know, so stupid.
No, I'm with you.
I feel like you should write in them. Like when you give them to somebody, you should write kind of like why, and I don't know.
I have the same thing. So actually, one of my viola professor from since I was a senior in high school, so 2007, I think 2008. He is an old soul. He's only like 39, 38, maybe. He's probably gonna yell at me.
That's old. Fuck, I feel old.
Well, he's an old soul, but so he does the kindest things. Like when you leave a personal message to someone that he bought me these music books and you wrote a story about it. And like I still have them. I'm not playing every day like I used to, but I keep them. I bought unfortunately he's passed, but a friend of mine and Brewer, he was a poet. And I went to his 2 releases and got the signed copies, and he wrote a nice personal note in it, and it goes a long way. And part of it's the sentimental value, but you should write in the books you're gifting people. Why are you giving to them? What's the story behind it? How has it helped you? I think.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And I don't know what to do with this software.
What's it doing now?
I'm just clicking buttons. You know, I don't know. I don't know what you can see. I don't know what they can see. I'm just hitting the buttons, people. I'm hitting the buttons. All right. You hit me up this morning. Wait, why are you still on there, Dominic? What's going on?
What are you seeing? Because I'm not seeing anything.
You're not seeing that? You just see my mugshot?
I just see your mug. Yeah.
You don't see like the program out?
Nope.
I was overlaying comments onto the surface of the internet.
I wonder what the people are seeing. The people must be seeing that.
They're seeing just 2 sexy motherfuckers talking to one another.
Hell yeah. That's us.
I'm everywhere. You are, Dominic. Watch this. Boom, you're back. But I don't know how to make you go away. Hey-o. Hello, Dominic. Go away. Oh, I did it. He's gone. All right, you hit me up this morning. You were putting together some stuff and you were like, hey, I know you built a thing. Let's talk about a thing. So talk to me, homie. Let's get into why we're here today in the first place.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to give it a little history real quick, I guess. After my first that conference in January, I wrote up a nice blog post, pretty lengthy because I went through all my experiences about it. But in that blog post, I also made it a point to link to every single talk that I talked about or keynote.
Yep, I remember that.
And I love that because it's valuable for me. I have one resource that I can go back and find things. There's YouTube. YouTube is YouTube. Yep. So then I thought I want this to be available for everyone because everyone's uploading it onto their own YouTube channels, but we don't have a home for it anywhere, and we're dependent on finding those links or those people who gave talks giving us those links or whatever. And so I said I want to create a central hub for this so people like me who couldn't attend it but after the fact can still gain some benefit from those people that gave talks if they want to share them. Yep. So I wanted to create that website where basically people could just submit their talks and it'll be static content and it'll exist. Now I know that .us already has their profiles, their talk descriptions, their social media accounts, blah, blah, blah. It's got basically everything, but to my knowledge, it didn't have that space for like a content collection basically of all of the, and again, not everyone records our talks, but of every bit of content from each that conference.
So okay, keep going. Or is that the end?
No, I mean that's pretty get it out and I wanted to strike while the iron was hot, which is why I didn't reach out to you previously. I wanted to talk to you in like another week's time, give you some time to decompress and get back into your rhythm. But people started posting their videos. I said, I need to get something going now. So I made a quick landing page with an email sign up form so you can just get notified when new videos are posted or whatever, and a Google form. So speakers can just provide that information and I would add it to the site. I have ideas on automating it or whatever, but again, just getting the idea out there, building it. I said, let me just do this.
Yep. Okay, let me tell you what we have, because the irony is we have a lot of this already.
I'm sure you do.
So in the platform, we have this notion, well, you have your profile and then you have sessions and we have events. And events are a container of sessions and speakers and people. And a profile, so a person has all of that respective stuff, and a session then has all of that respective stuff too. So let's start with the session. So as these overlays are goofy. I don't know how you do that. Anyways, I gotta stop getting distracted by new shiny tools. So a session has your stereotypical title, short description, long description. So let's just take those three: a short description or a title, obvious. That's your hook. Your short description is like your Twitter post, 280 characters. I should limit it. I don't. We can. Long description is kind of your full out abstract. So if you were to look on the event page or the schedule page, when you see all the little cards, what you see is a title and the short description. If you click on any one, you get to the session. The session is the people, which could be multiple, the title, the long description, where it's at, what event, like all the things. One of the things that's in there, and it's different depending upon the type of session. So if you were a workshop, you would have an agenda. If you were in prerequisites, if you were a session, you wouldn't see those two things because they don't really make any sense. All of them, regardless, have a notion of supporting resources. And that is meant for you right now, the speaker, to link to anything that is applicable. That could be a video, your website, your whatever, I don't know, other blog posts, people. The point is that we can share each other's Google juice. So we get a lot of it. And so backlinking is good for the speaker or the session. It's just kind of good for everybody. If somebody, and this is where I struggle, is speakers don't tend to go and do anything. So they don't go back and link up to the things that are important. And thus, when I'm trying to push people to the sessions page because they've already favorited or whatnot, so they already have the collection of the things, they could then see that. So there was a running idea a while back of like, why don't we let anybody add links or supporting resources to any session, assuming that they have an account on the platform. So there's a bit of moderation that we don't currently have. But, the thought there being like, and I'll pick on the people who are in chat. Let's say Ross is at your session and you're doing a thing, but he has a really great idea of another blog post that you didn't see. He could then add it to your session, right? So you could add what's yours and others could add things that are applicable to that. And then rolling it up is really it's just a display thing, right? You could see it as part of your schedule. We could add more to the profiles. Right now we kind of let things roll off. But all of that's like the easy shit. Like it's already everything they said is already there in some capacity other than others being able to add to the session. Fuck. Kicked a Pelican case. Damn it. I just kicked a 16 terabyte drive.
Don't love that.
All the videos are now across the floor. So it kind of gets back to how does one want to consume it? How is it kind of the most useful for somebody? I will say that.us is probably going to get refactored. So let's put that out there. But thatcommerce.com already has that stuff anyways. So I don't know if that really answers the question. But yeah, it's a 15 terabyte drive. It's a 16 terabyte with one whole toe. I think there's two sides. I think the ideal place is that others are able to add to the sessions that are out there, right? We already have that notion. We already have a listings page. We already do the SEO. Like that's good for all. We already have notions of notifications. So if somebody favorited a session and, we would need to extend it a bit, but if, that session changed right now, they only get notified, I think, I don't know if they'd get notified if new resources got added, but essentially if you favorited it and it changed, you get a notification that it changed. We could do a little better job of how we roll up things. So there could be kind of a post-conference view of like just speakers in general or topic of all the different events and things that are out there. So that kind of meeting your need of like, you wrote it all up so that you had let me rephrase. You put together a blog post that had all the things that you were interested in. But if that same blog post could be your favorites and your comments on those sessions, then everybody gets a blog post, if you will. Right? Because I think it would be cool if you saw what I went to, and if I had notes on it or comments on it, then like then we all have them, right? So there's kind of like share my experience or share my schedule type thing. I don't know. That's a little bit more involved than kind of where you're going of just collecting things. But can't you see I'm live streaming with cool kids? I don't know.
Yeah.
Adam, Ross, who else is in here? Sasha,
Alex is part of Gridiron as well.
Media, Dominic.
Yeah.
I'm curious where that kind of lands with people.
I think the idea of sort of a shared resource pool is great because I think of something one way. Exactly.
Yeah.
And we all have different perspectives.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like you said, you know, I mean, let's face it, there's always going to be talks that we can't make because we're split between two choices, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And that's just the nature of conferencing and schedules. Like you can't, unless it's going to be 8 days long where you have one thing at a time, you know, no one's going to do that. So, yeah, you know, I completely, actually, it's funny. Eddie Vink reminded me that .us was open source. And, I was like, oh God, you're right. You know, this was of course after the fact. Because part of the reason I rushed and did it was because this is, I think, a good thing and a bad thing. Yeah, strike while it's hot, but I also tend to like to do first, then ask for forgiveness later.
Yeah,
and you know, I think.
Though.
What's that?
That's how you flesh out an idea, though.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I agree, and I also know like. I could have a real talk with you and you know, you could just tell me straight up like, nah, this isn't cool, or B, we could work on something and figure it out, or whatever it is. So what I said to you earlier in our DMs was I do not want this to be more work for you. And that's my number one thing. Then I said, well, if I'm gonna contribute to that, I'm gonna have to learn Svelte, which is fine. It's something that I've always wanted to learn.
You bring it. Come to the dark side of productivity where we get shit done.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is, you know, I've heard great things about Svelte and SvelteKit, so I've always wanted to learn it. So I'm like, okay, this is fine too. So let's forget the technical side of things real quick and just figure out talk about how we maybe not incentivize people, because I think the incentive is sharing that knowledge and gaining that knowledge, right? But and this is something, again, I'm happy to contribute to, or you know, come up with ideas, is reminding, sort of, you know, how to remind people to do it. How do we make it known? How do we, because that, we've talked about this before too. Your website, everything, your platform is so intricate and massive, and it's got so many great things to it that people just don't know about.
It's big, and there's a lot of stuff there, and there's a lot of like internal knowledge that's not documented. So Brett and I, you know, there's a ramp for people to start to use it, and we've been doing Svelte since, I mean, this new platform started in 2019. So there's a lot of like skeletons that's like, unless you asked, if you assumed that I was happy with that, you probably assume wrong, because we're in places where things need to get upgraded to newer versions, and we haven't been able to do it because waiting for an event to end or whatnot. Like, we're just, you know, we have to be careful with, you know, kind of when we make some of these changes.
Yeah.
So Dominic says, this all sounds cool. Concern he foresees is unmoderated wiki page overwriting conflicting notes in the same talk. So I think the answer to that is you can't add a comment unless you had a ticket. I mean, I think if you are a participant in the conference, that's a piece of kind of moderation, whether it was online or in person. that we could say, well, it'd have to be to the event. So you'd have to have a ticket to that event, and we could say, listen, unless you had a ticket, you can't do it.
That's fair. And also, since you have the profiles already, maybe we could also make it an option where the speaker has to moderate things. They have to approve of. Like, it could be an option. They could just be hands off, or they could say, "I want to ensure this is accurate or a good."
So
addition.
the thing that really works about what you were doing is those who want to participate, it's easy, zero friction, can do it, can submit it and be done and be hands off. And I don't know if you've noticed, but people are lazy and they don't have a very long attention span. So they're not really going to want to put a bunch of energy into it. And after 16 events, I can tell you that it's really hard for me to just get speakers to link back to their stuff on their details page. And, you know, the reality is if they did, they'd get the free Google juice.
Mm-hmm.
And we get, you know, I don't, it's not like we're huge traffic, but I mean, we show up. So like there should be some incentive to do that.
I agree.
But people don't. And after the event, people forget, or, you know, they're on to the next thing. So that friction, even you being able to see that, you know, I don't know, Tegan put something out on Twitter to be able to grab that and link to it if you felt that was there. I mean, that's work too. But really to be able to capture it during the event, I think is the highest. Afterwards, you know, the more that gets shared and linked, kind of the.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think actually that's a good point, is making it happen during the event, which adds another layer or three of, you know, or multiple layers of things, because not everything is recorded. That's up to the speaker right now, right?
We're never going to do that.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's so much more effort and money and everything. But then that said, you know, makes me think, okay, how do we make that happen during the conference? And that's tough because the speakers typically are going to want to do some edits, or they have to, you know, they have to do the work of transferring it from an SD card or whatever. I
meant being able to, others to be able to add stuff to those sessions, like when they're in the session.
Okay.
Because that's when people are thinking about it. And if somebody knew something, you'd be like, hey, listen, I'm going to drop this on there, because it's just like if you were at a meeting and you were like, no, you got to go check this out and write this down. So that piece that's of a really good point. Obviously, there's the afterwards of like, hey, somebody wants to edit it. I actually had a conversation with Eddie about, is there a place where we could use Blog Recorder as in the room to kind of capture, and I might this is just a fucking good idea, and I don't know why I didn't think of it, but like essentially be able to capture a session as a not a full out transcription, but a shortened version, abbreviated version of the session, so that others could see it. So if every room, it's like this for me is where I'm kind of word vomit at the moment, but if I'm thinking about going forward and the things that we could do going forward better, then I'm thinking about, well, we could have AI sitting in the room recording the session and do a short transcription of all the high points that were hit and the questions that were asked, and be able to put together a blog post, like Eddie's thing of putting together a blog post, but really augment the session in the thing of the session details page. And then if there was a video or something, that could also be linked, and any supporting resources. The reality of why we started building what we did is so that we could also build an LLM of the people, of what they were interested in, so that I could say, as the curator of the experience, that you've favorited a bunch of things, and Ross has favorited a bunch of things, and Tegan has favorited a bunch of things. And you all have given me certain attributes of things that you like. And then if I could do a transcription of the things that are going on in the room, then I could go, hey, Tegan, I see you missed out on this session, but I know you like Svelte. Maybe you should go check out Clark's talk later or before. And you should meet Ryan because Clark and Ryan are Svelte fans and you two should be connected. Like that's the end place where I'd like to be, is like your actions in the community then propel you to help you create your tribe and get you the content that's relevant at the time and do all the connecting. That's my role. Like our role is to connect people and build a tribe. So
that you do.
That we can fulfill that, as we extend this platform, we can start to fulfill that better. But it's time.
Yeah. Time, energy, effort, right? Probably some costs eventually somewhere along the line.
Already cost now.
Ross says it makes like the concept of the review might freak out the speakers out, but speakers that don't want to share their content, okay to miss. Yeah, I mean, it could be an opt-in thing, right?
No, I mean, okay, I'm just going to go on a little rant here. If you're going to be a speaker, then you're public. Like, that's why you have to have a public profile on the platform. Like, I don't understand when somebody's like, I don't want to have all of these things, but then you're asking to speak in kind of a public forum. So that's where it's like, well, it's kind of at odds, right? Because people are going to want to reach you and people are going to want to ask questions. So if you're unwilling to answer, and my answer is going to be, then I'm unwilling to have you because you're not fulfilling kind of the reciprocal relationship of why people are there in the first place. Now, I totally respect the fact that whatever, you don't want to be involved like that. But then my thing would be, well, then maybe you shouldn't, like maybe this isn't the facility for you, right? Or at least we're not the facility for you, right?
Right. No, you raise a good point, and I think actually I'm going to retract my statement. I agree. I think number one, like you said, you're already speaking in a public place. But number two, it also not sharing that stuff goes against what that is all about.
Right. I mean, so if you wanted a private Discord, then go make a private Discord and don't invite anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with it. I just like, it's hard for me. It's hard for me in those scenarios to go, well, it used to be hard. I'm not going to try to meet anybody's goals anymore. If you don't want to be public, then you can't be a speaker. That's all there is to it. I can't.
Yeah, I think that's a fair barrier to have. Or expectation, not. Realistically.
I've made it so. You can't stop me.
Absolutely not.
So there's a whole lot of stuff there. Now, the reality, Ryan, is, like you said, there's a big ass platform, and it's not, from a priority perspective, all this is great. But I can come up with things that are of higher priority. Mm-hmm. And to get going in the platform, you're kind of jumping way down into the intestines. And that's a little, it's not, I shouldn't say way down. You've jumped into the throat and you're entering the stomach, but you're not really into all the shit yet, right? You've just entered you've entered the belly of the beast. So I don't know. Tegan's done a bunch of work in the system. I'm sure he would have some comments of where things would be good to start, but
yeah.
Kind of depends on where you want to be, what you want to do.
I think you raised a good point that there's things, and this has come up a few times for me recently in just conversation with people, but it's finding that ROI, thinking of it from a business standpoint, at least, And let's face it, you've been open about the financial situation. We
Yeah,
know
sure.
attendance is down since COVID, right? So where's the ROI for that conference and Clark, right? And Clark's family.
Um, uh, I'm gonna answer that question a little differently. I if you were to ask about community needs, I think there's a real place where we can take. Right now, we're using that community, that domain, to point at our Discord, but really, whatever, we can use whatever one we want, because I have a lot of them. Um, I would. Um, I think there's a broader need for us to take the community section that we have. So if you go to that.us and I want to make sure that I don't lie, because that's a site that has not seen my attention in a while. Yeah, so if you go to communities, this let me back up for a moment. We have a community problem. We the industry have a community problem that is user groups and meetups are struggling or dying or can't get found, and some are on Meetup, and Meetup has costs and has done lots of crazy stuff and is now bought by somebody else and whatever. We have a very interesting thing where we sort of built kind of the spirit of Meetup in that community section. It's moderated by us at the moment, but there's nothing stopping us from like repurposing like the domain that.community and kind of pulling this section off and creating a place where all of the different local user groups and developer-based communities can submit their thing, and we could have, I don't know, a meetup, a phone book of sorts of the activities across the different areas in the globe. And we already have a profile system. We already have a way for you to follow something. Like, we already have all of those constituents. We already have this notion of a community. And so these are all, it's a very interesting thought. So if you were to ask me, do people need more videos or do they need to get more engaged with the local user group? I, in whatever role you would like to call me, would say I would like to help the local user groups grow. Or let me rephrase, I would like the local user groups to be found.
Well, it's again funny that you're circling this back to something we spoke about was, and I sort of threw this out there and I never wrote something up, shame on me, about how that can sort of support local meetup groups.
Oh yeah, we were talking about that.
Yeah.
A while
and
back,
I keep actually
months ago.
a couple of months ago, and it's on my to-do list actually. And again, this was something I was going to reach out to you in another week or so because I wanted to give you space. But how that can be represented in local meetup groups and support local meetup groups, which again, I'm thinking, and I'm just talking out loud here. Think from a financial standpoint of a place that's already like, okay, well, we got to figure it out, but we still want to support the community. What can they do? But what that does is the community. Like, that's part of how it can support those local meetup groups, is sort of pointing people and steering people towards those groups, right?
Yeah.
As well as the SEO juice, the Google juice, as you like to say, and everything like that. There's not much that I don't like. What do local meetup groups need besides people attending? It's people seeing that they exist, in my opinion. Obviously, like, you need good leadership or people behind it, organizing and things like that, because I've been to duds of meetups and I've been to great meetups.
Yeah.
It's you have them all. Um, I I would, and we talked about like maybe chapters of that where we're not hosting conferences, but it's basically the same thing. We're all under that umbrella though, which I kind of like the idea of, because it's and I think this is clear from how I've spoken about that before. But part of what I love is the inclusivity, the welcoming, the community aspect behind it. So if you're under that umbrella, that's the expectation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I was that Long Island, um, that would have those same, and there's nothing to stop you from creating your own thing and having those same exact expectations. But seeing as that is established, Clark Sell is established, I feel like it would aid that effort.
Uh, yeah. There's. Oh, I've just really fucked up everything. There. Clark's gone. There is. Those are all things that those are all great things, and I think there's a crawl before you walk type situation in that. I think of the awareness today, and that's the piece where, like, we had all of the people that were running a user group say something during closing, and it was, I don't know, when I asked how many people are going to user groups, only a few people raised their hand out of 500 or 600 people. Like that's a sad thing. So we could do all this other stuff, right? But when you really get down to the core of it, it's just, how do people know about this thing, and why, if they should go, why they should go, who's going. And yeah, Meetup kind of checks that box, but it seems like everybody's running for Meetup and it's too much. I don't know. Not everybody's in Meetup. I'm not really sure. Like, I don't want to rebuild Meetup by any stretch, but it feels like something simple can be achieved that may create more value. I don't know. And again, this is just vomit of the mouth. Like, all of these things I think are great things that a community should have, and I feel a certain sense of responsibility to help the community grow, both locally and obviously our own. And that takes some technology, that takes a lot of marketing, that takes people who are passionate about those spaces, and that takes an engaged set of people who want to do stuff, right? So what are the right things? We emailed 165 user groups in Meetup in like 4 or 5 states, and I maybe heard back from 10 of them. Like, that's not great.
That is shocking.
Yeah. I mean, now they're active, whatever that means in Meetup land, but that doesn't really mean much.
Yeah, I think, first of all, I think it was back maybe, I don't know, before COVID or after COVID, I can't remember, but Meetup had a sort of people kind of started revolting against it, and some other options came up. I think, and this is a problem just in general, I think, but especially in the tech world, is the fragmentation of where everyone hangs virtually, Discord, Slack, X, Mastodon, Blue Sky, LinkedIn, which is a necessary evil, but so then it's yeah, I mean, we could have this conversation about like creating the Facebook of the developer world, right? Like as in the sense of a community. That's a tall task, and you have to, a bit of luck is on your side, but a great product is something you would have to build. And so, like you said, you're not interested, and nor am I, really, in creating a new meetup. But I do think that's something, a more simpler offering that provides that value is easy to build relatively. But again, it's the marketing behind it. It's part of the luck of getting traction, right?
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate, I think.
Yeah, and I don't really have the right answer other than there is a problem, if you will, that I would like to see a lot of smart people who are energetic put some energy behind. And I don't just we are the curator of, like, not we, me, but we all as participants, we are the curator of what we want to see. And I'd like to see us starting that conversation as to what is it that we really want to see, right? If Ryan's hub of videos from a conference, and I'm not picking, I'm just using as an example, if Ryan's hub of videos of a conference is a needed thing, my question would be, well, is it a link to YouTube? Like, I often, we wouldn't want to recreate YouTube. YouTube does a really good job of it. Like me hosting videos on thatconference.com, it's silly. We have YouTube. So again, smart people need to have conversations about what things help the community, the people in the community grow and be engaged, given that we know that there is a huge fragmentation between social and asynchronous communication, because those really are the two things that our virtual world kind of goes into, that create an issue.
We came into this not really having having a topic, and I feel like you keep mentioning talking out loud or blabbing. I think that's good. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody thought there was show notes.
I worked all day, went to a meeting for Gridiron, and then jumped on this call. I don't know what people thought they were.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting how this sort of meta conversation about it too, right? And this all stemmed from me wanting to have a place to host things. But yes, all I was doing actually in my submit form, it's like, what's your name? What's your talk titled? Give me at least one social media handle where people can get in touch with you. Provide a YouTube link, because we're not recreating YouTube. I just want a place for everyone to be able to see it.
Right.
But you're right.
And to your point, it's like you've already curated a schedule and things and descriptions and talks, and like adding that, it's like, well, that's already there, right? Like the speakers today could really go, oh, time for me to not be here anymore. That's my automation.
My light turned on 15 minutes ago.
that's my automation saying, get out.
Get out.
Right. Like we already have that. So, and I've already told the speakers, go put your things there, which begs the question of like, okay, well, could we just surface it better? Sure. Always. I mean, maybe. I like the idea of like, could we just make, Ryan's blog post, take your favorites and curate the blog post that's like these were all the things that I thought were cool and all the supporting links because this was my schedule. So you're saying publish my schedule to this event. I mean, that's sort of there too already. Because I mean, there's
Right.
not a downloadable form of it, but it's easily like all the APIs are there. It's just a matter of like, hey, let's create a page that's like Ryan's event recap. And
Mhm.
honestly, maybe that's the place. I'm like, not like that's an easy place for you to, if that's something you wanted to do, that's a pretty easy thing to do. I mean, maybe
Yeah.
visually not so easy, but
Jason saying a playlist of each event with all the talks. Yeah, so Jason, it's actually funny you mentioned that. Part of getting ahead of to start putting things on my project was just grabbing every YouTube link and throwing it on a YouTube playlist, just so I would have easy access to it. And that's something that could be thrown up on that YouTube as well. But again, it's that either someone's gonna have to manually go find them all and add it, or the speakers will have to submit them to, in this case, probably you, Clark, and then you have to just make sure you add it to the YouTube playlist. And it's
yeah,
not even featured on that's website.
I I would, my encouragement would be who are the people that would use it? And what are they hoping to gain from it? Like who's the customer and why? And I'm coming
Hmm.
from a place of sensitivity in that I get asked, are we recording all the sessions? And I can emphatically tell you that 90% of the people would never go back and watch them. They just
Hmm.
like having the weight of the thing. Um, and knowing that, right? You just go look at our YouTube numbers. The people who we've been advertised to are the people who are active or at the event and whatnot. So if they're not watching it, now I'm not saying that others won't and we can't do better with advertising and all that kind of stuff. I'm just like, who's the customer? What's the value? What are we solving? What's the value that they're going to get? And is it just, and then we have to knock down like, are people just overly excited about it? Right.
Hmm.
Or is there really like, are they really going to do something with it? And I mean, I have a lot of theories. I don't have any answers. I think part of you putting together your own blog post, there's a piece of you reliving that. And even that's good. Like if I go and do that for you, are you going to go back and go through the memory counter and readjust? Like, I thought this was important. This is why. I thought this was important. This is why. If I just hand it to you, then arguably you're like, fuck it. It's done. Like that's, sure, we could do it. I don't know. Maybe it should or shouldn't be done. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a tough thing to decide. Where's the ROI on it? Is it really going to be useful? Is it just the hype that everyone gets from attending the conferences, right? Like, again, striking while they aren't as hot, we all know. To be honest, I do think that between that in Texas, between that and that Wisconsin, I don't know that it ever vanished from my timeline. It certainly like diminished over the time, but just when maybe it was teetering off, that Wisconsin started ramping things up again, and maybe that's good planning on your part, right? To keep it in our
Well,
mind
that was the
always.
plan. That was the plan with two
Yeah.
events for sure. But that's a lot of work.
Oh, I'm sure. I know. I could only imagine. Jason, yeah, I think Jason, you joined afterwards, but Clark mentioned the idea of, he actually spoke to Eddie Vink of Blog Recorder and said, is there any way we could basically use this to create a synopsis and sort of a summarized version of the talk, which would be pretty
But
great.
it would be cool. But are you going to go back and do something with it? I mean, that's the real question, right? And but then I'm going to come back to like, If having a synopsis, like, let's just take this conversation now. Is having a synopsis of this video worthwhile? I don't know, because unless you're watching the video and you're listening to the diarrhea coming out of our mouth, you can't really follow along because you don't really have context of the thought process, right? Like, it's not going to get captured that this conversation isn't is just us throwing ideas at one another and just chatting through it versus this is like, take this shit to the bank.
I think the difference being, though, this could, I mean, again, I could just rewatch this and take down the points, and maybe I should have been taking notes this entire time. Actually, I probably should have. But, you know, you can come out of this with action items of things to look more into, of, hey, we're, you know, now I'm going to have to go back and find it all. So maybe that's where like an AI summarization could be useful. But
that's
again,
more
how can you
relevant
100%
for you
trust
and
it?
I.
Yes. Yeah, that's true.
Again, I'm not saying any of this is bad. I think it's all great.
Yeah.
It's just, when you get down to it, what are the things that provide the highest? I mean, this is any product. What are the things that provide the highest amount of value for the people who are using it, and what's the problem that it's solving? Having more right now isn't a great thing, right? Because we already have a metric ton. So I don't know that more is really helpful. I don't know.
We should run a poll at the next Stack conference. Everyone's going to say yes at the moment.
That's right. Like, you literally cannot do that at the conference because the hype is so high that the bias is overly positive. And that's the hard part about it is that you know, this is a good, like, the questions I would ask now is like, what do you feel like you're missing, and how is that solving your daily job today? Like, what did I not provide, or what do you wish you had that legitimately would solve your job today? Now, you can ask that in two flavors. One, you, Ryan, because you participated online. And two, Ross. I'll go three flavors. Two, Ross, because he was an attendee. And three, Jason, because he was a speaker. Like, what, in the context, or for a sponsor, right? In the context of those personas, what information did we produce, or what connection did we create that you wish you could then exploit now for the betterment of you personally, you job, you whatever?
Yeah, being at the conference is the mountaintop for sure. I think
Keep talking. I'm still listening. I have to grab a sticky.
No. Yeah, you're good. I think, again, the value for, again, it's tough, right? Because again, you want to incentivize people to just show up to the conference, and in that, you know, the talks are exclusive, but not necessarily exclusive, because again, people can record it at their free will. I don't know. It just, but then you go and argue. It's like, well, how much is too much? What do we focus on? What is going to provide value to the community? Blah blah blah. I don't know. It's all, you know, these are all like meta theoretical questions that we don't have answers for. We're not going to go poll the user base, right?
No, I think we should. I mean, I think those questions need to be asked. because I think that it gets down to like, do you feel good about the thing you're building? I mean, that's really right.
I mean,
Otherwise,
in my case, yes. It doesn't matter. For me, like, honestly, so the reason part of it, like, I thought of it was simply because, well, hey, I couldn't make that conference. I want to be able to easily find all this stuff. Let me build something so that way others can also see it. Again, does that provide value past one watch?
But all right, so let's keep going on this. So that existed. So there's a collection problem.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Which is a human problem. And you and I both spend energy trying to solve the human problem. I emailing speakers and attendees and whatnot, encouraging them to add those links to the session. And you, I'll say, retroactively trying to capture it from social media because people are putting it out there.
Right.
And then you were like, okay, I got to have it in a place. So one, the place existed, which, right, we can make it easier for you to crawl, although it's already there. But it doesn't change the human element of like, just go put it there.
Right. Well, that's the whole thing is, again, ideally, it's not me manually doing it. It's people submitting it, which you have already experienced is tough to do. And You're the conference organizer and you have the platform.
Theoretically, I'd be like, theoretically, in this case, I would carry more weight with those individuals because I, just emailed them this morning and said, hey, do this as a reminder for the whatever time. But they still have to do it. And that's
tech folks.
Yeah. No, you can read it.
Nope, I was going to agree with it. Tech folks assume that people problems can be solved easily with tech. I mean, that was my first idea was, again, part of it is because I didn't know it existed, right? But it was like, let's just make one place for people to submit things.
I don't want you to take anything as like me knocking you in any of this. So please don't.
No, I don't.
As the case, I want to see I think the post event hype is a cool thing that happens. We're going to have another live stream on Friday. Like, I think that's all great. So capturing that and leveraging it for good, which kind of takes me back to everybody like being able to contribute to a session. If you had a ticket, like being able to drop it there, in that one context. But I don't want to say it's hard. Like, none of it's hard. It's just people's motive.
I mean, my motive is it's personal, but also for the community, right? And I don't know. If I have your blessing, I want to continue it. I can either A, learn Svelte and try to build it on your site, or B, make the MVP and then learn Svelte and build it out on that site since it's open source, which is great. I love that part of it.
Yeah, I mean, you could essentially make an event recap page of your favorites that has this stuff, and assuming that the speaker went and added a link to their session, you would have a nice recap of all the things that you were interested in.
Right. Yeah.
Like, that's true. That's not a hard thing. That part like is a very attainable thing to go to go get and kind of build visually. Build because the APIs are there and all that. So that part's
Yes,
not
your
hard.
API is very complex, very thorough.
But the adding videos, like adding links to things, that's like a human problem. Like no tech's gonna figure that. People just have to do it. Like whether they add them to their session or they add them to your thing, or you end up adding them or somebody else, like somebody has to manually do that.
Yes, yeah. Which is the problem you're already facing on your on that's platform, right? So
yeah.
I
mean, if you want to build some shit on thatconference.com, let's go, buddy. Like, I will. Like it's there.
Yeah, I think I don't know. Now I want to see how many speakers actually know about the functionality on that's website. Again, you've emailed them, but how many have read it? How many have, you know what I mean?
I'll tell you. Give me a second. I'll tell you how many have read it.
The email campaign stats coming out.
Dun, dun, dun. Ooh. Let's see. 79% read it and nobody clicked on a thing. Now let me see if we had. I might not have link tracking turned on, so that could be a. Let me just double check. Let's see. No, I don't have it turned on, so I don't know, because we try to make sure we don't get ended up in the spams.
Yeah, again, like I'm not a speaker. I went to that conference, so naturally it makes sense that I don't know everything that the platform offers, but you know.
Yeah, but it's a call to action. Like this isn't like me letting them try to figure out. Like they got emailed and said, please go add supporting resources to your session so that others could find it, and then emailing the attendees and saying, hey, we told the speakers to go add links to this shit. Feel free to go look at the schedule with the sessions because they should be updating that. So it's not like, I mean, it's completely like, hey, you got to go do this for the peoples.
Interesting. Well, I think I don't know. The fact that it basically already exists, it's just not being done, curtails my enthusiasm about it a little bit. But it doesn't mean that I won't make it for myself, at least.
All I'm saying, again, I'm not here poo-pooing on your thing.
No, I know.
This is the human side of software. Like,
yes.
Like people have to do something with it.
Yeah.
That's the hardest fucking thing. Use it right.
This is everyone should listen to Clark here. Just go submit your talk on that .us. On the sessions.
But if you want to jam on, I mean, if you want to create your own thing, cool. Got my blessing. You want to expand that conference.com? Great. Help you out too. I think
you're too busy. The whole point of this was for you not to do it. Oh, right. Jason didn't record. What a bummer that is.
I don't think so. I don't think everything has to be recorded.
I don't think everything has to be recorded, but I think recording your talks, like, would you agree typically that someone giving a talk holds some weight in their credibility to speak to something?
Do I think somebody giving a talk holds weight to their credibility of that topic?
Yeah.
I think it can, but I don't think you get the credibility star until you've been doing it. So, I mean, what credibility are you looking for? Let me ask that.
Let's say I'm a stranger that you're looking to maybe invite to talk at your company on whatever topic, and I have
Okay.
no history of talking on that before. And then person B has, you know, 3 years of giving talks on that topic. Who are you going to go for?
Sure. Well, one, you have to ask, how did you find person A? And um, two, if you're only judging them on videos, that's only one dimension of why that person, if that person is applicable.
Just, again, food for thought. Like, I think for me, I want to have that as a or like so many people have it on their websites, their personal portfolios or whatever it might be, like my speaking or my blogs even, right? Like I'm writing about things. It doesn't matter. So that's where I think the value in recording things come from. And again, for me,
I'm not
I
saying that
maybe
I'm not saying there's not value in it.
yeah.
I'm just saying, depending on how it's being used, the value that you are attaching to it right now is for you. You're saying, I want this for me. I want Ryan to have this list of things for me, proving that I did this thing. Which, if we really are getting into this, I would start asking you questions about, why are you not confident about the things you are doing? Because guess what? I don't even have a fucking website. Am I credible? I mean, I let
I
the
think so.
domain lapse. Well, okay, and the point being, like, I just want you to see, like, you're attaching value to having the goods because you want to have a bigger pile of goods than somebody else, so that somebody values that as whether or not Ryan is good at this thing. And I would encourage you that your actions as a whole, whether or not you have a blog post or a video or you're just active in the things you do, it's the actions as a whole that are the things that ultimately give you credibility. Yes, could somebody go look at a video and say, hey, I think that they're technically a good speaker and did this and did that? Sure. But then I would say, if you came at me and you said, I want you to re-deliver that talk for my people, maybe, like, that feels like you're shorting the people in the context of the thing. And yes, it happens. And sure, I've delivered talks 10, 15 times to different groups across whatever. But I don't know. There's a lot of other things that happen that shape us as individuals and what we do. So
For sure.
we just got all deep right there, man.
I mean, that's par for the course when it comes to talking to the Clark Cell. So,
which is only there because my dad won't give me my Twitter account. But hey,
your dad's got the Clark Cell?
Yeah.
That's too funny.
So again, I think having a collection of things and having a good personal portfolio, like all of that stuff is important, 100%. But some of the biggest things I've done in my career, I'm not even legally allowed to speak to.
That's also fair.
What the fuck do you do with that? Like,
right.
How do you, I literally can't tell you about it. So now what?
Yeah.
Right. You're doing shit in your job. You won't buy me a fucking plane. I said, hey, come on, send me I'll send you an SVG for the logo. Come on. It's fine. Paint that thing a nice flat gray. I don't need anything special. Just, stealthy through. You want to go with the flat black? That's fine. I mean, I know that's the new trendy, like camo in the sky.
It is the new thing.
Yeah.
It's
Cool.
so funny you mentioned that, the things you can't talk about, because yeah, I mean, even in my job, there's, I can't talk about a lot of things in my current industry. It's how it is.
I mean,
Hopefully people take my word for it.
Yep. Yeah. And there are a lot of things that I do, coaching or mentoring or private group things where those conversations are great. None of them are recorded,
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that's also the beauty.
I should.
Go ahead.
Should I have a website? I should. I don't at the moment. I spend it doing other things.
It's funny. Speaking of like you not having a website, I do think it's interesting that it feels like the more established you are in this industry, the less flashy necessarily, or the less, not flashy, but the less your portfolio or personal site is important. Like I see some, people in the industry that have been there for a while having a very big, like I couldn't get away with like being, I don't want to say funny or cute, whatever, but going against the grain and having just a plain HTML website just because. But then you see people who are senior developers are like, yep, here's my site. Like as a junior trying to get a job, I can't do that. Yet I have less experience and knowledge.
I mean,
says who?
Yeah.
I think anyone hiring.
I mean, do you have other things that you've worked on that you can point to?
Oh, for sure.
Okay. I mean, if you were interviewing with, I'm not going to judge you based upon what your portfolio site looks like. That's just, in fact, if it had too much flash, I'd ask, what the fuck are you doing? Because you've been working on this. What else are you doing?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that I could see.
I've never, depending upon the role, I guess if you were in a more public role, then I would go, okay, well, do you have your like personal brand together and is it kind of on point? Mm-hmm. But like we hired Brett. I didn't hire him because he had a flashy website. In fact, he doesn't. Sorry, Brett.
I think it's I don't know. I do think it's important personally. But again, that's me, right?
I think the actions that you do is important. And if you showed me two different things, something that you built that was a system that was integrated to a database and third-party services, and it had security across the wire, and it was doing CRUD operations and row-level security locks and that kind of stuff, versus a Astro website of your personal profile, I would say, I don't care about the Astro. I care about this thing over here that had all the moving pieces that demonstrated you understood a system architecture. And I would ask you questions about, why did you do that? What did it solve? What were the problems with it? All of that, because that is real world. And your Astro portfolio site has already been solved by 1,000 other things. And those are like agency marketing sites. So unless you were in that, like going for that role, I'd go, I want to go see the thing that's got all the hard shit in it, the security, the this, the that. Otherwise, all you're proving to me is that you can write CSS. And we all know that that's false. None of us can write CSS. We don't. Kevin Powell can write CSS. The rest of us, not so much. You're muted. Or I really.
I am. Thank you. Yep. No, that's a sentiment that I've heard before. Is and then part of it is like I personally take pride in my portfolio, so that's why I made it a point to build it myself and blah blah blah. But yeah, I mean, so many people can get away just using a template. You're right, like it's already been um, solved. But again, I think similar to just what you're building, like, do you care about what you're building? Do you enjoy what you're building? Are you happy with it?
Totally. For
And
sure.
doing something you enjoy, whatever it is, like whether you're learning something and building, like I'd rather build, I don't know, let's just say like uh I don't know, if I'm working with APIs, I'd rather work with the Pokemon API than golf,
Great.
whatever. Like,
Yeah.
but so like that's the effect of being happy with what you're working with.
But there's a difference between slapping a page together of links and working with APIs.
Yes.
And if I'm hiring, I'm looking for the thing I want to see the thing you're passionate about, but what I don't want to see is a static list of things. I want to see, did you take it to a level of, and again, this is be if I'm hiring somebody, are you taking it to a level that you can demonstrate system architecture and design and why did those things matter? I don't care if it's the Pokemon API, the barbecue API. The point is, can you demonstrate that those things, why those things are there and how you dealt with them and what and why versus right here's just, a simplistic thing. So I think we're
So do you
one and the same
go ahead.
thing, but
Yeah.
I'm looking for you to really show me that you've reached outside of the boundaries of like Astro template, added some, divs, cool, pretty, versus like made a thing that actually works.
So do you take that into consideration with unspecified, since that's your web agency? That's where you have clients, correct? So, um, do you, the project that you feature there, that's everything, you took that all into consideration for potential clients, or do you
My
treat that differently
website for
since
unspecified is hot shit. It's garbage because I'm too busy building other people's shit.
so that's why, like, how do you use unspecified then? How do you get clients then if unspecified isn't a reflection of what you're talking about when hiring someone? Now, I know someone hiring a web agency for a website is different than you hiring a developer for your team, but I'm just curious.
It's other work, it's past work and past customers and phone calls. And I mean, my unspecified website would never represent it's a marketing website, well, which is terrible. But it would never represent what I would build for a customer. Now I use that conference platform to talk about what and how we build things. So I would use that as a reference more than I would use unspecified.
I'm really interested to, I gotta get going, but I want to know your thought. And again, this could be the same reasoning that you just mentioned with the portfolio versus your projects, but why not make unspecified similar to something you would build for a client? Or do you trust that referrals from previous and current clients will keep that going?
I'm building systems for companies, not marketing websites. So I have no need to create a system for unspecified to demonstrate my skills. I would just use that conference because that's an effort that we have that is a system. And if I wanted to talk about, if I wanted to talk about other, now that's the game we're in, right? I'm not in the portfolio marketing website stuff. So like our designers use their website, who they are an agency, they use theirs as some flashbang of like, look at some of the cool stuff, and they highlight all their customers and the things that they've built on other customers. But when you're building a system, that's not I have a hard enough time just keeping that conference running. and that's a multi-tier architecture, the whole nine. So
Yeah, I'm trying to remember who you spoke with when you talked about it. Maybe it was Brian Morrison. I think it was when you were on with him. Um, this is something I'm going to tell people to go watch, because if you want to hear Clark actually talk nerd and talk web stuff, it's terribly impressive. It's just wild to see.
and and to your point, like that would be the thing I would show. Now, if I didn't have that, then it would be, well, I don't know. Then I would probably create something that was similar but solved a need that I had. If that was the type of job that I was going against or going for, if that makes sense. Because the thing you have to show has to be contextually relevant to the job you're trying to get, right? So if you're trying to get a development job, going and being a speaker, I mean, it's good. It shows you can communicate and you can teach, but it doesn't necessarily show that you can do development. So
yeah, and especially if it's not tech related, right?
I mean, even if it is tech related, like speaking is an art in itself, right? Designing and building software and working on an engineering team is also an art in itself. And so, can you
I've learned that.
Yeah, can you demonstrate, you have the aptitude to continue to learn, and how, you could pair program with somebody and do that? Like those skills in that environment are going to be what I would interview for, not like, hey, do you technically move and capture the stage better, right? Because you're not going to get to exercise that if you're on an engineering team.
Right. Oh, 100%. Well, I've got to wrap things up here. I've got work to do, unfortunately.
Hey, look, those planes don't make themselves.
No, they do not. But go ahead before I go.
I would say, before you go, I don't want you to, like, I feel like I kind of like took the wind out of your sail, and I'm not trying to, like, I'm trying to put wind in the sail, if anything.
No, but this is what we do. You and I talk very real, right? And we get down to the nitty gritty.
We do, but I still want to make sure, like, I didn't take the wind out of your sail. Like, your head is thinking of the right things, and like, cool, let's go build some shit. And if you want to build your own, great, I'll support you. You want to build on our stuff, great, I'll support you there too. Like take that bottle of passion that you have and continue to kind of use it. I don't know what I was going to say for evil, but for good. And focus it in the right way. And as somebody who's built a lot of product, I just find myself always asking the question of, like, why? What's the value? Who's going to use it? Cool. Do I know who my customer is? And you can, all of those questions are the same, whether or not you're interviewing for a job, or you're going to go speak, or you're going to build a product. Like, you still have to answer all of those things and then go, oh yeah, well, humans are still the problem at the end of the day. So how do we deal with that?
Getting people to do what you're looking for them to do, right?
Well, I mean, arguably we build software so that they can do it faster, better, cheaper, with less error. I mean,
yeah,
that's the only reason why this shit exists. Because it would be really expensive for me to have this conversation with you if I had to jump in a plane and fly to you so we could have it at a table and then fly back. But the wonderful people at EM, which are not sponsoring me by any stretch, but certainly feel glad to do that, let me buy their software so that we can do this, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. No, you didn't stray me away from doing it. I do like, though, talking about it from a different perspective. And also you've done it. You've basically built something similar on that already, and it's being underutilized.
A lot of things are, like content sharing and whatnot. But those are things that, I mean, and there's lots of problems for that too. Marketing, human, education, words, like gamifying the system, like all those, there's a lot of those things.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, I think not that the answer is this, but to solve those problems or questions, it's always time, energy, effort, like, and those are all finite resources.
They are. And to your earlier point, if you don't enjoy doing it, right, then when the thing is there, you're like, I don't really want to work on this anymore because I didn't find it fun enough. You know, it was fun at first, and now it's like, yeah, God, I got this thing out there, right?
Yeah. Yep. 100%. Well, I'm still going to do it if anything else for me, but I want to learn Svelte and contribute to your site as well. So that'll be on the horizon, the not far horizon.
I mean, Svelte is really, really kind of nice. So
I heard such good things about it. It's it's tough because again, someone looking for a job, it's like, well, it's not really demanding. It's not really out there on the jobs that I'm seeing, so I haven't learned it yet.
I get that sentiment. And I don't want this to come across as like go learn everything in the world because whatnot. But I do think learning a few things, at least if you know one deep and you know some other things kind of cursory level, it does help reinforce what you did learn in the one. And you can start to see where things are moving to or may move to because it turns out they're all sort of similar. Like there's a lot of things Svelte did that, other frameworks, there's just hindsight on others because it came along later and whatnot. So not a bad, but I get it. I get it. You want the React job and I don't know.
Clark, I want a job, but yes, React is like kind of the thing in my JavaScript realm. That's what I'm saying. But it's funny that you mentioned, learning one thing can sort of aid you in the others, and I've seen that with React and Astro and Next. Like those are the three places where I am the most, and it's 100% true because learning Astro for my portfolio then made me feel more confident jumping into Next, and then the things I've learned on Next and working with that have made me more confident jumping into or back into Astro or take my learnings from there, or like working on Deals for Devs with James Quick or working on Gridiron Survivor. Like now I feel so much more confident jumping into different code bases. It's just those transferable skills between, it doesn't matter if it's a framework or language. It's massive.
Yeah. I mean, this shit's not that different. Like it's JavaScript, like write JavaScript, big fucking deal. I mean, I'm not trying to downplay it at all, and yeah, there's people who code me under the table, but whatever. At the end of the day, it's like you're taking words and you're making computers do shit. And some words you speak a little differently, and other ones you call different APIs. But the fundamentals they're still sort of all the same. Sort of ish.
Yeah. It depends. The famous answer.
Yeah, I mean, context with everything, right? React has a shadow DOM and does things their way, and Svelte does things a different way, and whatever.
Yeah, 100%.
They're just different. It's cool. I have opinions. Whatever. It doesn't matter. I was in React all day today, and I hated every minute of it. So,
I think we all feel that about no matter what we're working in some days.
I mean, there are definitely those points. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, I'll let you go because you got to go build airplanes, and I really like mine to come soon. So.
I appreciate you taking out the time to talk. It was good catching up with you.
Yeah,
especially after your busy week or busy probably months.
Yeah, it's been busy, just a little bit. And for whoever's online, like, hey, God bless you. Thanks for being here. As I'm playing around with knobs and switches, I'm gonna guess it went well. I have no idea. There's people.
Yeah, there's people.
There's people watching. We got a thumbs up. So
I appreciate people hanging out and hearing us ramble on about different things.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for using the thing.
Yeah. All right, man. I appreciate you you and everyone hanging out. It's been fun.
All right, man. I'll talk to you.
I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.